The moment my heart stopped, I thought I'd black out. But instead, everything got louder. I could hear my own body failing, the thud of blood slowing in my ears, the machines panicking behind me. And then nothing. Just a low hum, like a light bulb about to burst. I wasn't floating. I was being dragged, pulled through layers of sound and heat and pressure. I didn't see tunnels or white light. I saw flashes. The first thing I saw was Hollywood, but not the way you see it on TV. I was above it, looking down. Everything was glowing, pulsing alive, and I was falling toward it, fast. More like being dragged into something I couldn't resist. My soul wasn't floating. It was sinking. And just before I hit, I felt it. This thin surface, like plastic wrap, stretched across the city. I didn't stop. I slipped straight through, and underneath everything changed. The light stayed, but the warmth was gone. The sound was off. People moved, but they weren't people, and right at the center of it all was a very big stage. Ellen standing under lights that never flickered. But then I also saw Twitch across from her. He was on his knees with blood like fluid flowing down from his blackened eyeballs. And I watched her take something from him. Like it was hers all along. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I wasn't supposed to be there. Most people stop listening before it gets real. If you didn't, like, subscribe and stay close. There's more coming. I came to LA thinking I had something people would care about. Not fame or money, just a voice, a story, and with something real. I was 24, living in a guest house behind a producer's ex-wife, paying rent and favors in half, finished edits. I wrote spec scripts at night, ran coffee during the day, got just close enough to feel the heat of it, but never close enough to get inside. After a while, it wears you down. You meet people who smile too hard, who ask about your energy more than your work. You start performing for rooms that don't care if you're dying, as long as you stay likable. The night I overdosed, it wasn't on purpose. I'd just been up for days. Anxiety, insomnia, trying to finish a pitch deck for a show I knew they'd never read. I took something to help me sleep. Then something else to quiet the shaking. Next thing I remember, I was on the floor, but I wasn't panicking. I was floating, like something had finally let go. What came after wasn't light or peace. It was movement, pulling, like my soul was being redirected somewhere deliberate. I landed in a place that looked like Hollywood. But it wasn't. It was beneath it, behind it. Whatever I'd slipped into, it was built to look familiar. The lights, the cameras, the fake smiles. But nothing there was alive. Not really. People laughed, but their mouths didn't move. Faces stayed frozen long after the moment passed. Makeup cracked like old paint. And no matter where I turned, I felt watched. Not by a person, but by something the whole place belonged to. Whatever I'd landed in, it wasn't a dream, and it wasn't meant for outsiders. Before I ever stepped foot in Los Angeles, I already trusted her. Ellen. It wasn't even about the show at first. It was what she stood for. Kindness, safety, inclusion. That word safe meant more to me than I realized. I didn't grow up around soft people. I grew up around volume, around silence that hurt more than yelling. So when I saw someone smiling every day, making strangers laugh, giving away cars, and dancing like life didn't scare her, I believed in it. I thought she was real. When I told people I wanted to work in TV, they'd laugh, like everyone does when someone says they're moving to LA. But when I said I wanted to work for her, people listened. They understood. Even the bitter ones. Ellen was different. Ellen was good in Twitch. He was more than just a DJ or a dancer. He was joy itself. There was something effortless about the way he moved. Like gravity didn't apply to him. Like he didn't just hear music. He became it. You could watch a full show and feel like you barely saw him. But somehow, you remembered his energy more than anything else. The two of them together, it worked. She had that maternal pull, and he had the light. It made the room feel full, even from behind a screen. So when I got to LA, I chased that. I worked on small sets, music videos, charity specials. Anything that put me close to the orbit. I met people who'd worked on her show. Most of them had stories that didn't match what I believed, but I brushed that off. That's just how people talk when they're bitter, when they didn't make it. But now, I remember those stories differently. Like the girl who said she wasn't allowed to speak unless spoken to, or the crew member who said the studio felt off when Ellen arrived, like the energy of the building shifted in ways they couldn't explain. Like the walls themselves went quiet. At the time, I thought they were being dramatic, jailous. I wanted so badly to believe the version I'd grown up with. The dancing, the laughter, the light. But something was wrong. I just couldn't see it. Looking back, there were moments that should have stopped me. I remember seeing a clip online, Twitch dancing, Ellen clapping along. He spun midair, landed perfectly, smiled, and then there was this flicker. Just a second, his smile dropped. His eyes shifted, he looked tired, not physically, soul tired. It passed fast, Ellen laughed, hugged him, and the audience screamed. But something in that moment stuck with me even then. I just didn't know why. Now I do. Because when I think about her smile now, it feels like a mask. When I think about his energy, I wonder how much of it she was taking. Maybe that's why it worked so well between them. Maybe he was the source all along, and maybe she was never dancing with him. Maybe she was dancing on him. Before all this, I used to watch her every day. Ellen, she felt like the one constant in a city that didn't care if you made it. She made people laugh. She gave things away. She danced like she meant it. She felt safe. When I got to LA, I told people I wanted to work for her one day. Writers, PA, whatever it took. I studied her interviews, the way people lit up around her. It didn't feel fake. Not then. And Twitch. He was the light beside her. Always smiling. Always moving. People like him didn't just dance. They lifted rooms. But now every time I remember her smile, it feels different. Like maybe the warmth wasn't hers. Maybe she was always feeding off someone. Back then, though, she was everything I wanted to believe the industry could be. Kind, joyful, sharp without being cruel. A woman who'd made it without stepping on people. Or so it seemed. I remember catching her show during a bad stretch, sleeping on a friend's floor in North Hollywood. I hadn't eaten that day, and I was doubting every reason I'd come here. Then she came on, dancing like nothing in the world had ever hurt her. For 5 minutes, I believed it was possible to be soft and survive. That illusion kept me going. When I got work on a commercial gig connected to her network, I felt like I was getting closer. I met people who'd been in the same building, writers who'd worked on her specials, even a guy who said he handled post on her season finals. Some of them talked, quietly, little things at first. How cold the studio felt even when the lights were up. How no one ever looked her in the eye unless she initiated it. How people change once they got too close. Like something wore them down faster than the job should. I didn't want to hear any of it. I laughed it off, told myself bitter people loved tearing down what they couldn't be a part of. But the comments stuck. One day, someone mentioned Twitch. We were on set talking about favorite live performances, and someone said, "He's too bright for that place. She's going to burn through him." I didn't understand what they meant. Not then. But after everything I've seen, I keep replaying moments I used to love, and now they feel off. The way he'd light up the room just by walking in. The way she'd beam at him when the audience clapped. It all seemed so effortless. But there were cracks. Sometimes he'd finish a dance and stare a little too long into the floor. Sometimes his smile dropped before the camera cut. There was one moment, maybe a month before he died, where she placed her hand on his shoulder during a segment, and he flinched. Only slightly, just enough to notice if you weren't supposed to. I think about that moment more than anything else now. Because maybe he knew. Maybe part of him had already figured it out. That he wasn't beside her. He was beneath her. Fuel. And I wonder how many others figured it out too. How many bright faces dimmed quietly, off camera, because they got too close. What scares me most is how long I believed in her. How much of myself I gave to the idea of her. Because once you've danced in the light of something you think is good, it's hard to accept it was always feeding off you. I thought if I left the city, the sickness would fade. After the hospital discharged me, I didn't even go home. I booked a rental, grabbed my laptop and whatever cash I had, and just drove. No announcements, no calls. I wasn't running for attention. I was trying to get away from whatever followed me back. The freeway was empty. For almost an hour, it felt like I was finally outside of it. The pressure, the watching. But just as I started to relax, the car lost power. No sounds, no flashing lights. The engine just cut off while I was driving. I pulled to the shoulder, stunned, and sat watching traffic blur past like I didn't belong there. The mechanic said the system shorted. Electrical failure rare, but possible. I didn't buy it, but I nodded anyway. I tried again 2 days later. Different car, different route. No GPS this time. I mapped everything by hand. State roads, side streets, whatever would keep me off the grid. By mid-morning, I should have been halfway to Fresno. But then I looked up and saw her face again. Ellen plastered across a billboard, smiling in the exact same pose I'd seen in my dream. Behind her, the Hollywood skyline. I stopped the car, turned off the engine, and stared at the city in disbelief. I had been driving for hours. The mileage confirmed it, but I had looped right back to where I started. I hadn't taken a wrong turn. I hadn't made a mistake. The road had rerouted me, quietly, without permission. A week later, I gave it one last shot. I barely made it past Burbank. My chest locked up, my vision blurred. My arms went numb at the wheel. I stumbled into a cheap motel and collapsed on the bed, fully clothed. When I came to, I was back in my own apartment. My bag was unpacked. The food in my fridge had been restocked. Everything looked as if I'd never left. I didn't ask questions after that. I just stayed. But the city had changed. Or maybe I was finally seeing it clearly. The streets felt like sets. The shadows moved too predictably. I'd catch myself watching crowds instead of walking through them. Faces felt rehearsed. Smiles hit too fast. The same man passed me twice in one day, wearing the same coat, carrying the same coffee. Inside my apartment, the air was always too still. My lights buzzed when I moved. Sometimes I'd hear soft tapping from inside the walls, rhythmical, like stage shoes crossing a floor. I started avoiding mirrors. Every time I looked too long, something shifted. Not my reflection, the space behind it. Like the room in the glass was waiting for me to step through instead of just pass by. And the sounds, always just on the edge. Laughter that didn't belong to anyone in the building. Music cues with no source. One night I heard applause, clear, sustained, as if a crowd had approved of something I hadn't done. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, lingering trauma. But that lie stopped working once I realized I wasn't being hunted. I was being pulled. Not by Ellen. Not exactly. She was just a channel, a face. The city itself was drawing me back in. Whatever I crossed into during those 46 seconds, it recognized me. It let me walk free, not because I escaped, but because I was never meant to stay gone. And now it's adjusting everything around me, redirecting roads, warping time, turning my life into something it can understand, something it can use. This isn't about possession or revenge. It's architecture, design. Ellen is just a host, a carefully polished door. But I've already been through it, and I don't think I ever walk back out. Some memories don't come back in clear images. They return through sensation. The way the air shifts, how sound folds in on itself, the sense that time is no longer following the same rules. That's how the ritual returned to me. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I was placed back inside it, like a replay that had waited for me to come back. It didn't feel like any physical place I've known, but everything about it was familiar in structure. A stage stretched out in front of me, wide, polished, empty. The space was built with intention. Lights above hummed to life one by one, creating perfect, clinical pools of brightness. Their glow wasn't comforting. It exposed things precisely, sharpening edges and flattening warmth. The shadows felt arranged. Nothing about the room looked accidental. Chairs lined the space beyond the stage, dozens of them, perfectly spaced, all facing forward. They didn't feel abandoned. They felt prepared, waiting. And then Ellen walked in. She moved with quiet certainty, like someone who didn't need direction. Her steps were slow, steady, rehearsed. No expression, no hesitation. She carried herself with the calm of someone returning to a task she'd done countless times. She stopped in the exact center of the platform, placed her arms at her sides, and stood still, eyes focused ahead. Moments later, Twitch appeared across from her. He didn't enter through a door. He didn't fade in dramatically. One moment he wasn't there, and the next, he was, perfectly positioned in the opposing spotlight. His face was blank, but not lifeless. His body was upright. His breathing was steady, but the absence of struggle in his posture made it clear he wasn't there to resist. The exchange began with movement. Ellen raised her hand, slow and deliberate. Twitch moved in response, or perhaps his body simply mirrored her out of design. It didn't resemble dancing. There was no rhythm. Each gesture felt precise, stripped of performance. As Ellen stepped forward and pivoted, Twitch's shoulders dropped slightly. His presence softened. Something in him was loosening. With every shift in her stance, his light dimmed. His frame grew thinner, less defined. His smile lingered, but it no longer reached anything inside. His body was still functioning, but the part of him that mattered had begun to slip away. Ellen's glow, in contrast, became stronger. Her skin reflected more of the stage light. Her figure became sharper, more vibrant. There was no change in her pace, no triumph in her expression. She wasn't taking she was collecting. Every movement made her more complete. She circled around him once. When she stepped behind his back, her silhouette seemed to stretch over his shoulders, as if drawing the final threads inward. Then she lifted one hand and placed it gently between his shoulder blades. There was no visible impact, but I felt the moment something left him. His head tilted forward, his chest fell slightly, his smile vanished, not in sadness but in release. Whatever was left inside him, the spark, the weight, the soul, shifted into her. Twitch remained standing, still breathing. But he was empty, not broken, finished. Ellen stepped away and turned her head toward the space I occupied. Her gaze met mine immediately, as if she'd known I was there all along. She wasn't startled. She didn't flinch. Her eyes didn't ask for secrecy or forgiveness. She looked at me the way someone looks at a passing shadow, acknowledging it without concern. In that moment I understood. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't a hijacking of energy or some twisted improvisation. It was structured, polished, intentional. She wasn't casting a spell. She was fulfilling a contract. Twitch didn't fall, because he wasn't taken by force. His part had been chosen long before he stood in that light. He hadn't just worked beside her. He'd been feeding her all along, and when the last piece of him entered her, she didn't celebrate. She simply returned to stillness. Her task was complete. I wasn't meant to interrupt. I was meant to see it, to carry it, because something about that ritual wasn't finished. After I saw the ritual, nothing I used to love felt normal anymore. It was like my brain had been rewired. I couldn't hear music without feeling cold. I couldn't look at a stage without thinking about what might be living behind it. I started watching clips again, old interviews, performances, anything with Ellen and Twitch. I told myself I was just trying to understand what I saw. But really, I think I was searching for proof that I hadn't gone insane. And that proof came fast. Ellen always used the same phrases, and I used to think they were just her being funny. I feed off energy. I live for the crowd. They keep me going. Those lines used to sound lighthearted. Now they felt like instructions, like she was telling us what she was doing, just hiding it inside a smile. Twitch was always right there, moving, laughing, holding space beside her. But in some clips, his eyes shift in the middle of a smile, just for a second, like he's checking something above her, or behind her. Something we were never meant to see. That's when I started noticing the patterns. Every episode had a rhythm. She always danced at the same moment. The crowd always clapped the same way. The lights always hit at the exact second the music started. It wasn't just habit. It felt programmed, like there was a code behind the show, and it had to run the same way every time. The more I looked, the more I saw it. And it wasn't just Ellen. Other shows had the same rhythm. Other hosts used the same words. Let's raise the energy. Let's bring the light in. They weren't just saying that for fun. They were following a pattern. They were using the same language, but it was always hidden under smiles and applause. That's how they do it. That's how the whole system stays invisible. They don't hide in the dark. They hide in front of everyone. The language of the ritual isn't in shadows or robes. It's in lighting cues, in camera angles, in the way a host claps after a joke, not because it was funny, but because that was the moment they were told to. I found a clip from an older show, an accident, a guest falling off a stool. Everyone panicked, but the camera didn't move. The light didn't cut. In the background, someone off screen whispered, "She's not ready." Reset the moment. They aired it once. Then the episode vanished. I went back to the people I used to know in LA, the ones who used to chase the dream. Most of them had left, disconnected. One girl who used to be a segment producer wouldn't even talk to me. She just said, "Don't start asking questions you can't afford to answer." It wasn't just the performances. Even behind the scenes footage had strange moments. Workers pausing mid-step, studio techs humming the same four-note tone while resetting lights. I thought it was coincidence. Now I know better. Some of them know. Some are part of it. But most are just tools, used and drained until there's nothing left. And once you know how to see it, you can't stop seeing it. Every show, every award speech, every fake laugh on every late night set. It's everywhere. A hidden language spoken through motion, light, and repetition. A ritual people think they're part of, but they're really feeding something behind it. If you're still watching, and you think this only happened to Twitch, you haven't been paying attention. This isn't about one death. It's about the machinery, the system. And Ellen, she didn't build it. She just followed the script better than anyone. What I've shown you so far, it's only the first layer. There's more names, more rituals, and not all of them end in silence. If this already feels too real, then you're exactly the kind of person they don't want watching. So if you're still here, like, share, and subscribe before the next part drops. You'll want to be there when the rest of this comes out. It didn't hit me all at once. The changes came slow, like the city was testing how much I could take before I cracked. At first, it was just the sleep. I stopped dreaming. Not nightmares. Nothing. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd wake up with the same feeling that I'd been somewhere, doing something I wasn't allowed to remember. Then came the sounds. Not loud, not sudden, just soft, regular, intentional. Tapping behind the walls, a faint hum in the lights, the same knock every night, always at 3:17 a.m. I changed rooms. I stayed with friends. It followed. The mirrors were next. My reflection started lagging. By seconds, not frames. I'd move and it would wait. Once I caught it looking at something behind me. I turned fast, heart pounding. Nothing was there, but I stopped turning on the bathroom light after that. I know how that sounds. I know what people think when someone talks like this. Sleep deprived. Paranoid. Trauma loops. But this isn't mental collapse. It's design. The world around me didn't fall apart. It started watching me back. One night I came home and found every light in my apartment on, even the ones I never used. My laptop was open, sitting on a blank document with the words WKNUYOUSISABU typed in all caps. No timestamp, no saved version, just those words. Then it closed itself. I moved out the next day, left everything. I didn't even pack, but it didn't matter. The city wasn't where the haunting lived. It was inside me now. Certain smells pull me back, like burning makeup or fake fog. I see faces in my peripheral vision that vanish the second I focus. And the timing always matters. I'll be scrolling online and a post will glitch for a second, showing an image I've never saved at a stage. A spotlight, a silhouette standing perfectly still. They don't need to chase me. They don't need to threaten me. I already belong to what I saw. And what scares me most is that I don't hate it. Some part of me, small, buried, feels drawn to it, like something's calling me back to finish what I started. I dream in static now. I hear laughter where there should be wind. And the worst part, I've stopped questioning it. The haunting isn't about ghosts or demons. It's about influence. Quiet, constant shaping. And once you've been shaped, you don't go back. Sometimes, I feel like I'm prepping for something. Like the reason I was allowed to witness the ritual wasn't because I was special, but because I was next. And if I am, maybe that's why the signs keep showing up. A new talk show pilot, where the studio looks exactly like the ritual room. A host who stares at the audience too long before speaking. A dancer going viral for a smile that never quite fades. I used to think exposure would free me. That if I told the truth, I could cut the cord. But all it's done is pull me in deeper. The more I reveal, the more the system bends to reach me. It doesn't stop me. It absorbs me. If you've made it this far, you already feel it too. That pressure in your chest. That cold behind your neck. The sense that something is watching, not just the screen, but you. They know who watches this. They watch who shares it. And if you've been seeing the same signs, if the names, the faces, the smiles are starting to look wrong to you, then you're not imagining it. You're waking up. There's nothing left of the version of me that came to LA. I still look like him, sound like him, but everything inside got stripped away piece by piece. The drive, the hope, the belief that talent or good intentions were enough, gone. What's left now is someone who knows too much and has nowhere to put it. Fame doesn't give, it takes. And then it keeps taking, and we're taught to love the taking. We call it sacrifice, hustle, paying dues. But what we're really doing is starving ourselves for a seat at a table that was never built for us. When I first moved out here, I thought I was chasing purpose. Something bigger than myself. I didn't realize I was stepping into a machine, one that chews people up quietly and puts their faces on billboards so no one notices they're dying inside. Twitch was the kind of person who filled rooms. I used to watch him and think, that's what joy looks like. But now I wonder how long he was fading. How many shows he stood through already empty, just performing the shell. And no one saw it. Or maybe we did, we just didn't want to. Because that's the truth no one wants to admit. The signs are always there. We just ignore them. We say they looked happy. Or they had everything, like fame makes people immune to pain. But the industry is built to hollow you out while keeping your image alive. They don't want your soul. They want your likeness, your echo. I see clips now. Hosts, actors, influencers, and I can spot it. The dullness behind the eyes. The pauses that go too long. The forced laughter that comes a second too late. These people aren't alive in the way we think. They're in motion, kept moving by handlers, contracts, and publicists. But spiritually, they're somewhere else, and the audience cheers anyway, because we've been trained to mistake movement for meaning. As long as someone's dancing, smiling, giving things away, we think they're fine. We don't ask what's being taken to keep that going. People think this is just one story, one ritual, one strange experience. But it's not. It's an entire system. And the scariest part, it doesn't need to hide. It's built right into the way we consume. You turn on a screen, and it's already happening. The language, the rhythm, the drain. It's all there, wrapped in laughs and lighting cues. I used to believe exposure would make a difference. That if I told enough of the truth, people would start to question things. But most don't want to see it. They'd rather believe the show is just a show, that Ellen's just a quirky host, that tWitch's death was just another tragedy with no pattern behind it. It's easier that way. Ignorance is comfortable. But I don't get to live in comfort anymore. Even when I walk down the street, I feel disconnected. Like I'm watching a world I no longer belong to. People take selfies outside studio gates and pray their big break is coming, never realizing what's waiting behind those walls. It's not just hard work or rejection. It's something older, something colder. The industry doesn't need to kill you. It just needs to make you believe that giving yourself away is part of the dream. I tried to warn people. I tried to pull meaning from the madness. But the truth is, once you've seen what powers this machine, there's no fixing it. You can't heal from something that was never supposed to leave you whole. So now I sit with it. The silence, the memories, the things I was never supposed to witness. And every so often, I catch my own reflection on a black screen in a darkened window, and I wonder if I'm still there, or if I've already become part of the show. They laugh, dance, give things away, and we call it kindness. But none of it is free. There's always a script behind the smile, a cost behind the spotlight. Most people choose not to see it. But if something in you just clicked, like, share, and subscribe, because this isn't the end of the story, and what's coming next is worse.